it said that she got 4 days to live. So, of course, they've jumped on that to say she was lying, she's exaggerated, she's done this, that, and the other. But it seems that what has actually evolved, because she obviously was hospitalized from the car accident. And when she was hospitalized, the hospital found that she was going into, is it kidney failure, renal failure, something? She was anyway, the organs were starting to fail. She didn't know that. It would appear she did not know that was happening before the accident. So it was discovered as a result of the accident. Not that nobody's saying the accident caused it. It was discovered as a result of the accident because she was in the hospital. So she was transferred to the urology, and they were obviously able to deal with it. They were obviously able to treat with it. Whereas had they not been able to treat it, and had she not been hospitalized because of the accident, had they not been able to treat it, she was in serious trouble. So that's where I've been told I've got 4 days to live comes into it, because she was apparently in an advanced stage, and they had to treat her for it. So that became confusing. That became confusing, but that's why he said the accident actually saved her life.
So I'm just going to continue to read these notes that you sent us then. So Virginia was set to face the magistrate's court on April the 9th after breaching a family restraining order in the northern Perth suburb of Ocean Reef on February the 2nd. Her first court appearance following the breach was on March 14th. No plea was entered. Next date, June. Virginia contested the VRO, which resulted in court hearings leading to a trial. There are no court hearings if the VRO is not contested. Robert was also listed at the same court in February for allegedly providing inadequate storage facility for firearms. In an Instagram post shared March 22nd, Virginia said she missed her children very much and that they had been poisoned with lies. She was estranged from her children. They attended school, though there was no sign of them was seen at Virginia's hospital during visiting hours. The family acquaintances were seen visiting Virginia's luxury mansion in Ocean Reef. They arrived in a ute believed to belong to Virginia's husband, Robert, but he was not one of the passengers. A WA police force spokesperson told Daily Mail Australia preliminary findings indicate the death was not suspicious and that paramedics had provided emergency first aid shortly after arriving at the home. But who was at the home 10 p.m. when they called for the emergency services were made? What was the cause of death? By what means was she unalived? Yeah, so a lot of questions coming in pertain to who was at the home, how this 71-year-old Cura, how this person came to exist in Virginia's life. Do you know anything about that? Because Robert, the husband, there's a quote saying that he organized the 71-year-old Cura.
Well, he may have. She was, all we really know is that she was driving the car when it was supposed to have turned in front of the bus. I find it strange that you have a 40-acre hobby farm with a 71-year-old farmhand taking care of 40 acres of hobby farm. That, to me, is a bit of a stretch as well.
Doesn't make any sense at all. And,
if the husband don't make sense.
If the husband had arranged the Cura and Virginia wasn't on good terms with the husband, she wouldn't be receiving a Cura from him. And if he had managed to get the Cura through without her detecting that Cura could be acting on his behalf, doing God knows what to Virginia.
Well, she's come out with saying something really weird. I'm not covering anything up. She actually says, I'm not covering anything up. It's a long stretch, but did she have minder? Was she a minder? I mean, how come? It's again, I suppose, thinking logically, if you've got a 40-acre property, you would need help to maintain it, but would you pick a 71-year-old? I don't think so. You'd pick a healthy man.
Yep, nothing adds up.
A
So we
healthy
had a
man.
guest on. We had a guest on who does a lot of research on this, and she'd learned that the police spent 10 to 12 hours removing property from the property that Virginia had died at. Did you hear anything about that?
No, I didn't. Now, why would you do that if there's no suspicious circumstances? I'm with
Exactly.
her father. I'm with her father. I'm afraid I don't think she suicided.
Yeah. All right, I'll
But
continue to read
whether
the doc.
that in the state of WA would ever be legitimately investigated is another question. Because
So
the
read,
police here have said, okay, let's look at the police input. The police have said, we can't find any record of the accident initially. Her photograph hits the newspaper, and the, I think, acting commissioner comes out and gives a wrong date. And then it's passed to major crime, who say it's not suspicious. Well, major crime only take cases that are suspicious. You don't get to major crime unless it's suspicious. So, it's like the police also then, it says that his report to the police was that there'd been an accident. There was a 71-year-old and a 41-year-old. I've forgotten now what I was actually getting to, but yeah, even with the police and their their response to it all also raises questions.
We also obtained a document from legal action that Dershowitz was taking against Virginia. And I'm going to show you this document because this corroborates some of what you're saying. Let me just see if I've got that on the screen. Yeah, I do. So, Virginia's interview with ABC had to be postponed because her husband, Virginia Roberts' husband, had beaten her up so badly that she was hospitalized and that she could not appear on television with the bruises because she didn't want to have to explain that her husband had beaten her up.
She
That's from
covered it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. She kept it very, very quiet for a long time. And it's interesting that, that assault in January was where she was saying, no, I'm not keeping this quiet anymore. I'm dealing with it.
Yeah. All right. So I'll continue to
And
read your document then.
she dies only weeks later.
All right. So continuing to read your document then. There was an innocuous crash on a remote highway so minor the police struggled to find a record of it. Saturday, April 5th. In a statement from Virginia's family, they said the police were called but said there was no one available to come to the scene. They asked if anyone was injured and suggested that if they were, they should make their way to the hospital. The bus was full of distraught children, the statement said, and the driver left the scene, promising to file a police report, which he did. Virginia was banged up and bruised and returned home, it said. Virginia's condition worsened and she was admitted to hospital. And then an article says Virginia posted an Instagram saying she had been involved in a bus crash, had 4 days to live after doctors had told her she was suffering from kidney failure. And then Virginia remained in stable condition at St. Charles Gardner Hospital. She took to social media from the hospital bed with the post, the 4 days to live post, claiming that the bus had smashed into her at 110 kilometers an hour on March 24th. I've gone into kidney renal failure. They've given me 4 days left to live, transferring me to a specialist hospital in urology. Initially, police could not find any record of the crash. It wasn't until a press conference later that morning that the police confirmed that the crash had happened about 3 p.m. March 24th. Virginia remained in hospital after daily updates. her agent had gone to ground as the mystery of the seemingly innocuous crash deepened. And then it was Sunday, April 27th. After initially finding no record of the crash, police confirmed there was a collision, but bizarrely, they said there was no injuries reported and $2,000 worth of damage done to the car Virginia was in. She was released from hospital 6 days later. It is understood that the medical staff had concerns for her mental health during her stay, and her brother flew from the US to be by her side. And then on April 5th, Ms. Munn says he reported incident to the police the same day. Initially, prior to the Instagram publicity, no record could be found by the police, no injury. Instagram article appears in Western Australia Tuesday, 1st of April, though it is reported to have been posted Sunday, the 30th of April. It is feasible it did not appear in Western Australia until Tuesday, 1st of April. Yet police claim it was posted Saturday, 30th, which is in fact a Sunday, and the police report is suddenly found, and the acting commissioner does a press release. Oh my God, it's musical chairs, isn't it, Mary?
Well, the 30th that they're talking about is a Sunday, and they don't publish the West Australian on a Sunday. So here's the other thing. The police are reported to have said, okay, we have nobody available to go to the scene. If anybody's hurt, get them to hospital. However, at the end of the day, the bus driver had gone. Virginia and the caretaker had gone. There was no scene of accident. So why would the police say we don't have anybody to attend the scene of the accident? It had been dispersed. It wasn't there anymore.
So there was an article that's saying 1st of April, acting police commissioner Kylie Whiteley confirmed during a conference that the incident involving a 71-year-old woman who was at the wheel of the car and a 41-year-old woman in the passenger seat. But Instagram posted on the 30th, when questioned, police cannot find any report of the accident. The West published the Instagram Tuesday 1st, and same day the police acting commissioner acknowledges the police received the report that initially they could not find. Article, police detail minor crash with no reported injuries on Saturday, March 30th. Virginia posted a photo of Instagram of herself covered in bruises.
March 30th, which is Sunday. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. She said she was hit by a school bus. March 30th is a Sunday, not a Saturday, and the Western Australian does not publish on a Sunday. Virginia's spokesperson, Deanie Con Muffing, said in a statement to BBC, following her Instagram, what a name, on Sunday, inverted commas, Virginia has been in a serious accident and is receiving medical care in the hospital. Virginia's father told the Telegraph in the UK in an update, she's not doing good. She's depressed because she misses her kids. She's got 4 days unless she gets another opinion from another doctor. However, the Perth hospital where she was staying denied that characterization, with the police maintaining the crash was minor. So what do you make of that?
Well, they maintain the crash was minor, but it's the major crime force that's looking into it. What can you make of it? Truly, honestly, Shaun, what can you make of it? You know, it's bizarre. It makes no sense. Nothing adds up, except you can clearly understand that it was not her, the aggressor. The implication in the newspaper, the implication in the media is that she was the aggressor because the VRO is on her. That is not the case. And she was in the process of getting her kids back and clearing her name and putting that record straight. And suddenly she suicides before she can do that.
Yeah, there was a lot of minimization going on by the hospital and by the authorities. So the bus driver is Ross Munns, and he said the crash happened after he had followed a slow-moving white car for 3 kilometers before deciding to overtake when it went under 75 miles per hour and it was safe for him to pass. He said 75 miles per hour considerably faster than 75 kilometers, which could be a possible error. He said the small white Highlander was driven by a 71-year-old woman who he believed to be Virginia's carer. He said he had no recollection of Virginia being in the car, but a police report made by him the day of the accident and later quoted by police stated that a woman, age 41, was a passenger. Mr. Munn said he had 29 kids on board when he began his maneuver, only for the car to suddenly start turning right in front of him. He beeped his horn, but he was unable to avoid clipping the car and damaging its tail light in what he described as a minor collision. I mean, if you're going that fast, and why is the school bus going that fast? And if you're going that fast, if you hit something, even if you clip it, it can have really bad consequences.
I think that's an error. I think what he was saying, meant to say, was he's going 75 kilometers an hour on a road where you can go 100 kilometers an hour. I think that's what I think it's an error, right? It's not 75 miles, probably 75k. That's just a typo, I think. But the same. Yeah, go on. Go on.
He said he immediately stopped and went to check on the car driver, who had also pulled over, and was satisfied she was not hurt. She was elderly, and I asked her if she was okay, and she said, yes, I am okay. I asked if she lived here, and she said, no, I'm a carer. And I told her she needs to put her indicators on when you have to turn. That's all the conversation was. And she asked how the kids were, and I said, fine. It wasn't a major crash. There was an exchange of phone numbers, a conversation regarding the driver as to if she was okay and if she lived there. She asked how the kids were. Through the exchange, checking to see if the driver was hurt, the ensuing conversation, exchange of phone numbers, Mr. Munns does not see a passenger, but reports a 41-year-old woman and a 41-year-old passenger to the police, according to their report. Mr. Munn said he and the 71-year-old woman swapped details, phone numbers, and were both able to drive away, but he decided to report the incident to the police as he felt the circumstances were a little bit suspect.
And the police are supposed to have said, oh, we don't have anybody to attend the scene. But surely he would have told the police that it was earlier on in the day and that they wouldn't have seen anything at the scene anyway. So, again, it's just bizarre. It's bizarre.
Well, we appreciate you getting all these great details that we've not heard before. And imagine many of the viewers have not heard this stuff as well. So Mr. Munn said he later telephoned the driver as a courtesy to say he had reported the accident, and she rang him back the next day to say there had been a passenger in the car who had suffered a black eye. According to police, their response was to say there was nobody available to attend the accident. If both cars had driven away from the scene of the accident and it was reported at a later time frame, which is a strange response from the police. Mr. Munn said the impact was so minor there was no damage at all. He didn't even take a photograph because it wasn't warranted. He was under no obligation to report the crash, as the law only required accidents to be reported if they caused more than $2,000 damage. And in his view, the incident did not pass the threshold. He was driving with 29 kids on board. It would be safe to assume any accident, no matter how minor, should be reported when kids are involved. I mean, that's a very good point. Was that an observation by you, Mary?
Yeah. So, yeah, well, here again, she apparently did drive home, and then the caretaker says that she got worse and ended up going to hospital, but that she had a black eye. But he says all he did was clip the tail light. So you've got to think, okay, if they just clip the tail light, how did she get a black eye? According to her carer, not any other source, and end up in hospital when the damage was a tail light. That doesn't make sense either, does it?
No, it doesn't. And no, it doesn't make any sense. And Livia has just found another inconsistency. Why did the police spokeswoman say they knew nothing about the passengers in the bus?
Mm.
Did you come across that?
No, I didn't. No.
Christine is saying, why haven't 29 kids' parents been interviewed about the crash? It will be big news, I thought. It's all lies and inconsistencies.
Well, in the articles, there is a mother that comes out and says that her children came home. They weren't fazed by the accident. It was a Toyota car. Only the tail lights were clipped, and it didn't bother them. It was no big deal. But I think in the observations I've got, 29 kids sitting in a bus that hits a car and the driver getting out and making all of his observations. Would the kids know that it's a Toyota car? Would they know the only damage that was done was tail lights from sitting in the bus?
So at the most, an injury would be whiplash. The only way you're going to get a black eye is if an airbag goes off and smashes you in the face.
Well, here's the other thing. The driver has come out saying when he saw that photograph in the newspaper, he laughed because there's no way from the accident she could have got a black eye. However, the caretaker, the carer, whoever she is, rang him the next day saying she has a black eye. He knew she had a black eye. So why come out and say the accident was not serious? He laughed at the photograph when he saw it in the paper. And no way could she have got a black eye from that accident, except he'd already been told she had a black eye the day after the accident.
Several of the viewers are hypothesizing that the kids would have owned mobile phones and they would have been putting this all over the internet.
Absolutely. So they would. Yeah, so they would. Good point. So they would. For sure.
All right, well, continuing your report then, we've got the woman who was driving at the time broke her silence about the role in the crash, insisting it's been a misunderstanding that will be cleared up. This is from an article that you found. Cheryl S., the caretaker at the $1.3 million weekend hobby farmhand, spoke to the Daily Mail, insisting, I'm not covering for her. I'm not implicated in a cover-up. She helps take care of the 40-acre farm and retreat. The 71-year-old is taking care of 40 acres.
If you were going to employ anybody to take care of a 40-acre hobby farm, it would be a strong, young, healthy man or middle-aged man. It could be a middle-aged man, but a 71-year-old woman is a bit of a stretch, don't you think?
Yes. So parents of the kids in the crash upheld the driver Ross's claim, this is according to an article, that the collision was minor. Mother Emmy Rose Wright said her 3 children aged 5, 8 and 9 relayed the crash, only had caused slight damage to the rear brake light of the Toyota, which Virginia was a passenger in. Like they're going to clock it to Toyota. Children 5, 8 and 9 sitting on the bus. Well, this is what you've noted. Must have been very observant when relaying to the parents that there was only slight damage to the rear brake light of the Toyota. At that age, would they even know what a brake light looked like? Specifically identifying brake light damage. Would they know the car was a Toyota as opposed to other makes of the car? This is insane. So you say here, Virginia had a younger brother, Sky. It was reported she had come from a troubled home from the age of 7. Suffered, from a friend of the family, suffered the SA. Quote, I was so mentally scarred already at such a young age, and I ran away from that, from being in an abusive situation to being a runaway to live in foster homes. And she was living on the streets at age 14 in hunger, pain, and more abuse. And that's how she ended up in the clutches of Ron Eppinger in Miami, who was a 65-year-old. She lived with him for approximately 6 months, and he ran a front business for international transportation of kids known as a modeling agency, Perfect 10, He was raided by the FBI, pled guilty to charges of alien smuggling for carnal relations, let's just say, for sale, interstate traveling for same relations, and money laundering. The age of 14, Virginia reunited with her father. He was working as a maintenance manager at Mar-a-Lago, owned by Trump, and helped Virginia obtain a job there. And then it was mid-2000, she met Maxwell, working as a spa attendant at Mar-a-Lago, offered her a potential job working for Epstein as a traveling masseuse. And they seemed like nice people, so she trusted them. In her interview with the BBC, she said she ended up getting passed around like a platter of fruit. And she made allegations against Glenn Dubin, Dershowitz, Bill Richardson, MIT scientist Marvin Minsky, lawyer George J. Mitchell, modeling agent Jean-Luc Brunel, and Prince Andrew. So with this Prince Andrew then, with this settlement, what's your interpretation of that, Mary? Supposedly it was 12 million UK pounds.
It's been undisclosed. It's undisclosed. I think people are just guessing. But the only thing that we know for sure is it was a large amount. It was not peanuts. It was a large amount of money.
And do you think that Prince Andrew got off lightly? Because, you know, he's got
wow. Did he ever? Did he ever? Did he ever? I don't think there will be one person alive that would believe that he didn't do this. And
there is one. There is one. Her name's Lady Victoria Hervey.
Yes, there is one. There might be a few, but they're not many. Let's face it. You know, I don't think you can actually really come up with a convincing argument against this. And yes, why should he have the privilege of continuing to live in palaces and in luxury and not be arrested like every other person who was not royal, who would have been arrested and tried and either found guilty or innocent, and, you know, done the same thing that everybody has to go through in these circumstances? Why should he have special privileged treatment because he's a prince? That is not right. And you know, I think the English people should really be causing a bit stink about it, because it's discriminatory, it's class consciousness, it's not right. He is not paying the price as every other man would.
Does it affect your faith in the justice system to see that there are people out there
in the justice system? It doesn't affect the faith that's non-existent. Sorry.
Are you able to, Mary? Are you able to elaborate on why you lost your faith in the justice system in the first place?
Well, at the end of the day, even when the police do catch people who have, you know, done some terrible things, especially to children, they get off. They get off so light. It's ridiculous. And these people are back on the streets within months or within a couple of years, and they do it again, and then they're back on the streets and they do it again. At the end of the day, you know, where's the justice? Where is the justice? There isn't.
Yeah, there's a criminal organization here that is doing this to teenage girls across the country, and the government has voted not to even investigate it. They just don't even care. The politicians don't even care here. It's like it's not a priority for them to protect.
It's not just England, Shaun. It's across the globe. It's here big time too. You know, people who do speak out meet accidents. Yeah, or suicide, or you know, at the end of the day, it's not a very safe place to be a whistleblower. Yeah.
All right, I'll continue.
Let's go, for example, to England for Tommy Robinson. And I don't know how you feel about Tommy Robinson. We haven't discussed it. But he's been in prison so many times, and I've watched some of the videos that he's done with victims, and I've seen his you know, how his heart is for these people. His heart is to expose what's going on, and he gets put in prison, and they continue to do what they're doing. So at the end of the day, you talk about justice. This is the sort of justice that we have, but not just in England.
Yeah, it's insane. You know, Tommy's done some excellent work exposing these gangs, and
Yeah.
he's the one that goes to prison. I recently interviewed the leader of Britain First. He went to prison